everyone, it's Krista here with Blooms and Brushstrokes. Welcome to my channel. Oh my goodness, you guys, I have been sick this week. At first I thought I just lost my voice, which sometimes happens to me. And then all of a sudden, later in the week, I started to get the sinus and throat stuff going on. However, I am on the mend, but my voice is still a little crackly. So you're gonna have to bear with me. I didn't want to miss doing a tutorial for you guys because I've been on a roll and been very consistent. So I thought, well, you know what? We're all human. So this happens and I don't feel too crappy, but I just have a bit of a interesting voice right now. Anyways, for those of you that are new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for joining. And for those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being along for the ride, for all your comments, your questions, for tagging me in your Instagram posts so I can see your art. Thank you so much for all of that. I absolutely love engaging with you. I love to see all of your art. I think it's awesome. I just love to be able to inspire other people to be creative. That to me is just such a gift, and I'm so happy to see that. So a couple of things before I get started. One thing I wanted to ask you guys is, are you guys interested in like a live stream? I don't really know how I would do this. However, I'm eligible to do it now. So if that's something you would be interested in, give me a comment. Just, let me know that. I don't know how that would look or how I would do that, but let me know, because if you're interested and there's a day of the week that would be even better for you. Obviously they stay on YouTube so you can continue to watch them. But let me know, and perhaps I'll do one day. It's something fun, something different. So why not? Today we are going to work on something similar to this. I did a short of this, and usually when I do a short, it means I'm going to probably do a detailed tutorial. And somebody had asked about getting a tutorial for this one done. And so I figured we would get to that today. So as usual, I am using that Canson watercolor paper. It's a cold pressed paper. I'm using the Mungyo watercolor paints, the Speedball gold calligraphy ink, a number 8 round brush. I'll be using a number 10-0 liner brush, and perhaps a number 1 script brush. I will also be using a number 01 or 02 if I can't find my 01 Micron archival ink pen. I will leave this up here for you guys to screenshot. So if you need something to follow along, you can use this as a drawing and trace that out for yourselves. And otherwise, I think that's everything. So get your paints activated, get all your supplies ready, and let's get painting. We are all set up here. So I'll show you guys this again. This is what we did, or what I did previously. And so we'll be sticking to similar color scheme and all that. Probably not exactly, but similar, with the pinks and the oranges, and then doing some background work. So that is also a little bit new for the tutorials. I've been playing around with that a bit, so we'll add some in there today for us as well. So that's that there. I've activated up all my paints. Oh, I wanted to show you guys this. It's a kneadable eraser. I looked it up, is what it's called. And I got this at Michael's. And so basically what you can do is you can just go on and you can pick up some of that pencil. You can kind of roll it like so. It just picks up some of that darker pencil line. So if you have a dark line and you don't want that, you can go over it with your kneadable eraser. They come in like a square in where all the pencils and stuff are. So there's that for you guys. Alrighty, swatch this out so you guys can see. These are common paint colors that I do use. So I'll be using the opera pink, which is your bright pink. And then I'm going to be using vermilion orange, probably some yellow orange, maybe some yellow, And I'll probably be using a little bit of this burnt sienna in with that pink. That's pretty much the color palette I'll be using. So if you don't have the Mungyo paints, as you can see, just a bright pink and a few oranges and a burnt sienna or something that has kind of that orangey peach colored look to it, that is what we'll be using. Okay. So for these, I'm not going to put paint in every single petal. I like how it looks when there's quite a bit of white negative space still in the picture so that it keeps it looking overworked. Okay. So let's start off. I think in this one, I'm going to do 2 orange flowers and 1 pink because last one I did 2 pink and I never want to do the same thing 2 times because that would be boring. So let's go with 2 orange. I'm going to start and work my way from here over. So I'll be on this side. And I'm going to go in with my vermilion orange, which is kind of a dark but bright orange. That's this one here. And I'm going to go and put down, and get lots of water on your brush and lots of paint. And I'm going to go and put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decent sized dots of paint of that. Clean off your brush and then go in with the yellow orange. Again, lots of water, lots of paint on your brush. And I'll do 2 dots close to that bright vermilion orange. Clean off your brush, clean it right off, and tap it as I've shown you before. Get that water off. Oh shoot, like so. I'm just going to clean up that a little bit. It's not a big deal. And we're going to start to pull this water or this paint around. So I've got my number 8 Aqua Elite here. And I'm just going to start in the center and I'm going to drag it up and play around with staying in the lines and also out of the lines, okay? And clean off your brush in between so that you're not having too much pigment. If you don't clean it off, it becomes a bit messy. It becomes too oversaturated. And I think that is a very, very common problem when it comes to watercolor painting. We overdo it. And it's too much paint, too much water. It's too much. So this to me looks really nice. So it's still wet, and say we want to go a little bit darker in the center, a little bit more intense, that's when you can take in that vermilion and just kind of tap it down in that center if you like, while it's still a little moist. I'm going to add a bit more darkness to the center of this one. I'm going to add in I guess I didn't say to tell you guys this one, but I'm going to use a little bit of the gray green to put in the center of this to keep it a little on the darker side. And I'm just going to dot it in there while it's still a bit wet. And that one there is finished up. Just like that. It doesn't look like a ton right now, but even if we didn't have these lines in there, we're going to use those lines to help us with our line work after. But if we didn't have those lines in there, that would already be a very beautiful watercolor flower, and it'd be perfect. I'm going to draw off my brush entirely, and I'm just going to pick this up a little bit so it doesn't run too crazy. I don't mind some of that dark running. I like the look of that, but I don't want it to take over that whole petal. So now we're going to work on this one up at the top, and it's going to be in that pink, that opera pink, and a little bit of that burnt sienna. So we're going to take, again, we're not putting a dot in every single petal. We're going to leave a little space in between so it leaves some of that negative space. And we're going to put in a little bit of that burnt sienna. Just a dot close to the pink. And you know what? I might actually add one more small dot of that pink because I want to see quite a bit of it. Okay. Clean off your brush entirely. tap off the excess water, and let's start by going up. Clean off your brush in between and make sure it's not too soaked. And work your way around your petals. Great, I love how that looks. I would like there to be a bit more bright pink, so I'm going to just go tap that down in the center while it's still wet. I want it to be a bit brighter. And just tap it in the center so it blooms into those petals just the way you want it, as opposed to it taking over the whole entire thing. You can see over here I've got a bit of a dot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rub that a little bit, not too much because you want to still keep the look of the paint, just so it takes away from that dot. I only showed you that for an example. I wouldn't have actually done that if there wasn't a dot there, but I know some people have commented, what if there's a dot? Well, that is what you can do there. And say, for instance, you want a little bit more pink in this petal. Well, you can get your brush cleaned off with a little bit of water, and you can go into where some of that pink is still wet, and you can just kind of bring it up a bit as well. You can add a little bit more into these if you don't think there's enough in there. But I like to work with that negative space with that white in there. So we're going to move on to this last one here. Again, we're going to use that vermilion orange. And we're going to add in some nice big dots of that again. Whoop. So get a wet brush and lots of paint on your brush. I'm going to drop down 2 kind of closer together. And maybe one more up. We're going to go pretty orange with these ones. So get quite a bit of orange in there. Wherever you place your dots is fine. And then I'm going to go with that yellow orange as well and put a nice big dot of that in there. All right, clean off your brush entirely. And start to drag it up. Clean off your brush entirely. Oh, you can hear my cat in the background. And we're going to go with this one here. The reason that we're cleaning our brush off, as I said, in between each one is because it will get too saturated. And even with this one with so many dots down, it is quite bright. But I wanted to have a really bright one. Just so you guys can see that, how awesome it looks and how fun it can be. Okay, so I love the look of that. And I'm going to now take a little bit of that gray-green and put it up in this one because it's still a little wet, but not too wet. Just for that center. And in the middle of this one, I'm taking that vermilion orange and I'm going to pop that down in the center, just a little bit of that to keep it dark in there. I love that. I'm just moving up a little bit of that, softening up a little bit of that color to move it up into a petal there for the sake of it. Nothing crazy. Alrighty. So we have our stems. And so for our stems, we can go in with any color of green. Because we're doing bright, let's go with this deep phthalo green. This one here. For our stem. I think I used that in the last one and that's kind of nice. So, and instead of doing the dots for these, I'm just going to put paint on my brush and just pull them straight down. So you're going to be doing wet brush on dry paper. And we're just going to start, I guess we'll start here on the far side and just drag it straight down. They don't need to be super vibrant. They don't need to be super light. Just whatever color you want. They are not our focal point. Obviously the flowers are, so That one's pretty dark. We can go in and add a little bit more color to them. No big deal. Easy, just simple stem. Oops. Bumped myself a little bit there. Perfect. That looks great. I love how these all look already. So nice. I think I'm going to go and add just a little bit more of that in there. I like the look of the dark center. And if you don't, again, you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. It's just, this is just what I'm doing. So, okay, so we're going to let those totally dry up. This is where we're going to add in some of that background color. So I like using some of this blue, a little bit of this light blue, and okay, so we got the light blue. We're going to use a little bit of this deep phthalo green, but maybe mixed in with a little bit of this gray green. Like we're going to mute it down a bit. And then maybe add in a little bit of this Russian blue. So we're going to use a few different colors for the background. The background is going to be interesting. This is new for us, you guys, or for you guys. So clean off your brush. And we're going to start with this flower over here. So we're going to just take some water and we're just going to brush it down from those petals and get it towards the stem. So we're just brushing it down lightly. We're going to take some of that light blue and we're going to just go up around the edge of the petal, you can see, and then just bring it down so it's not heavy. And you don't really want it to touch the orange paint because the orange, and technically we should really let that dry for honestly like 24 hours before we go and do this, but we don't got time for that. So you want to stay away from that petal or the tip of the petal, and then we're just going to go in and kind of bring that down so it almost looks a bit like, you know, it's like dripping, or the, you know, as you can see that look, you know, and we're not doing a ton of it. And we're like, okay, we really like how that looks over there. Maybe we want to add a little bit of that Russian blue kind of up around this area just for a little bit of saturation. You can add a bit of that and then just dilute it down if you care to make it a little more interesting at different spots. But again, less is more, you guys, so don't overdo that because it's very quick to make a mess. So that looks really good. I think that's enough for there. And then we'll have some come down the center. So just add in a little bit of water, dragging it down kind of loosely. That's okay if some of this green from the stem runs into it. That's totally cool, because maybe we'll add a bit of that green in this area just to kind of stick with the flow of the green stems. So I'm just putting water down coming from these petals, but not filling the space entirely. So I am going to use a little bit of, I'm going to bring a bit of that green into there, like so. We will use a little bit of that light blue again. And just brush it down lightly. You know, like, we don't want to make it look like there's this full dark background. We just want it to look like it's watercolor paint background, basically. And again, if the color bleeds a bit or it blooms into another color, that's okay. That's the beauty of watercolor. And I think that's what I love the most. And so you can see here in my stem, it's bled a bit. And so I'll probably go in and fix it up once it's dry. But okay, so say we want to add a little bit of that Russian blue in here too to kind of keep it cohesive with what we've done on the other side. So we can go plop a little bit of that in there, you know, keep it bright, but that's enough for there. And then over here, we'll do a little bit coming down again, just like we did on the other side. Doesn't need to be much. And just go plop in that light blue. And just drag it down the little bit that a little goes a long way, and you'll still see that in the background. And then we'll just do a little bit coming up from the top, from up here. So we can go in and just add some of that water going upwards from some of those petals. Go in with that light blue. You know, take off that line so it's not so harsh. And just push it up and let it go. Push it up and let it go. Just let it be organic. Yes, okay. And then we'll just do a bit on this far side, just to bring it all together. So I love the look of having a little bit of that extra green come down in there, because I think it looks a bit like that, gives the idea of a bit of a leaf kind of there. So I am going to add a bit more of that once it dries up. Once this background totally dries up, then we can go in and add a little bit more green and then touch up the stems so they look a bit better. And then once those totally dry, we will get out the Micron pen then. So let that dry up, you guys, and then we will add in the last bit of detail. First thing we're going to do is touch up our stem. I don't want it to be too dark, but I want to fill in those little gaps there in that one. That's the worst one. And then we're going to add a bit of that green coming down the side. So I'm going to mix a bit of that dark green with some of the gray green, because I want it to be just not quite as bright. And we're going to go in on this side here and just pop some in there and push it down. So it's wet on dry. And then we'll take a cleanish wet brush and kind of just work that around a bit. So we want it to be pretty bold, but to soften it, we will go in, clean our brush off, and then just soften that color, you know, like with a clean brush to blend that in. And that kind of gives that look. And let's do a little bit coming from this one up here. I don't know, I just think it'll be a little bit unique. Tex, my cat, is in the background, and he can't decide if he wants in or if he wants out, or if he can't decide anything right now. So he's meowing because he was outside all morning, and then he had to come in and use the litter box, and now he doesn't know what to do, but it's getting windy and he doesn't always love that. And then he gets himself tangled up because he's on a leash. Okay, I like the look of that. I'm just going to bring a little bit more of that down. And maybe just a teeny bit on this side. Just a little bit in the corner. And I mean a little. Just to blend it all together. And we'll just soften that. Excellent. Excellent. I love the look of that, you guys. You could play around a bit too if you like, you know, like adding a little bit of a different color in there. That's just the blue that I have. Oh, I better let him outside. Just to add some mood to that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, cute. Okay, let that all dry up. And we are ready to roll into using our Micron pen. So as you can see in this one here, I've started to do some double line work and a little bit more free flowing, a little more creative, a little more abstract, we'll say, with the line work. So we're going to do the same thing, because then I go and paint in some of that gold ink in there. So if you guys like this just as it is, leave it as it is. You don't have to do the pen part. You don't have to do the gold ink. Just leave it as it is, whatever you prefer. So this kind of takes a bit of practice to get that loose flowing pen work going on. So if you want, practice on a paper first before you get going, but we're just going to start into this. This kind of dried up weird, that pink one, but that's okay. All right, so we're going to start with our orange one on this side, and we're just going to start by softly going up and kind of coming around and flowing around that petal and going up and around just like so. Follow your petals. You maybe don't want to go too out there, but it's okay to have a little bit of fun and be free flowing and just see where that pen will take you and the designs and shapes that you're going to get. That's, I think, what I love about doing this, is that it kind of creates a bit of a different look. Almost unexpectedly, you know, like it's a little more creative, I think. And but if you add too much, I think it gets to be too busy. And then I just kind of go and do the center. I just zip around it a couple times. Somebody did comment and said that they liked the piece before there was ink or before something. And that's the one thing I say, if you don't like that look of it, but you like how the watercolor looks itself, then just stop where you love it, and then that's totally fine. And that's the nice thing about art, is that it's not necessarily always going to be appealing to everybody, but it has to be something that you will love and that you're proud of. And that's all that matters. So even if you put yourself out on the internet, which I love when you guys tag me on your Instagram, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't necessarily love everything about your style. And that's okay. You have to be okay with being criticized a little bit. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't love your art. It's just that they're commenting on saying, like, I prefer it this way. And that's okay. It seems kind of, you can sometimes think, well, why would they tell me that, you know? And that's just a part of putting yourself out on the internet or out there in general. If you were to ever have an art show, you will have people criticize your art. And that's part of being an artist and part of growing in your art form, is there will always be people too. And that's how you become better. You know, it makes you think about what you're doing and that how your style, and so it's all part of it. Don't be discouraged by it. It's nice to have people tell you what they think. And I think that's the beautiful part about art. Truly. All right, we're just continuing on with our last flower here. And as you can see, my tape does go over the tips of some of my flowers, so I'm just kind of filling that in on the side where there isn't tape. So the tape is over this one, and that's fine. It's going to be cut off a little bit. I can fix that up once the tape is off, or just leave it. And that's no big deal. The more comfortable you get, the more you'll be flowing around these things, no problem. And I think not that you want to go over them faster, but the more you kind of just organically go over them, the better that they look. like so. And there you go, you guys. That's it for the line work. You can always go and add in more if you like, or don't add any again if you don't like. So that was the Micron number 01 pen. Last but not least is the gold Speedball calligraphy ink. I have other inks as well. I have these Winsor & Newton, and there's the silver and the gold. The gold is more of a brass color, I would say, which is really nice in some paintings as well. And the silver is very silvery. And it's got a lot of, sorry, there you guys can see the bottoms of them. Those are Winsor & Newton, and I like those as well. But I really am loving this gold Speedball, especially for some of these really bright colored ones. The thing about the calligraphy ink is that they settle a lot, so you've got to really shake them up. All right, guys, this takes a little bit of time, so I'll show you what I do here. And then you guys can just go on your merry way, and I will too, and I'll just fill in my little spots, and then we'll be close to finished. So this is the 10-0 Aqua Elite Princeton brush. It's a liner. It's beautiful because it's very small, and you can fill in some of these spaces. And so what I was doing is going in and just highlighting some of these gaps in the paint or in the painting. So where the line work is, and just kind of going in there and just coloring them in a bit to add that brightness. So this was kind of the one thing I think that somebody had seen on one of my videos and said that we could have done without. And that's totally fine. I quite like the way that it looks, and it just gives you a little more of an individual look to that painting. And well, everybody has their own style, so this is something I'm adopting as part of mine because I like it. But if you don't, then stop while you're ahead and don't add this in there. And you can do more if you like, and you can do less if you like. Whatever floats your boat. It just adds in that little look of that highlight. And so you will see that, sometimes I don't always stay in the line when I do this because it's just, I'm a little far away because I'm filming this. And it's a paintbrush going into really fine lines. So once we're all done, we can go ahead and just touch up the black line work. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this up, you guys. That's going to take a minute, so I'm going to speed this up. You guys do the same, and I will check in with you guys as soon as I'm all done with this and before we go and splatter in our splatters at the very, very end. I have all my little highlights filled in now. So I'm going to go grab the number 1 script brush. What we're going to do now is go splatter the paint on. And so this gives us that look of, what I really love, the look of the pollen in the center, which is what I love. And then of course it gets less as we move out. And I just love that look. It's not for everybody, so don't do it if you don't love it. But if you do, get your brush all loaded up. And we're going to start by dropping lots in the center of this pink one. And then finer as it goes out. So get your glob on there into the center. And then tap it so it's just fine and as it moves out from the center of the flower. And same. And you can add just a few light splatters kind of to bring it all together. And then that finishes off that painting, you guys. So just like that, we have our painting all finished up. It looks great. Sign my name down here. I like to put the dates on them because if I ever go look back, I can see how far I've come in my painting journey, you know, year after year after year. So at this point, you can let it totally dry, or you can live dangerously like me, and I just peel that tape off. Oh, that looks great. I love those bright colors, just so springy. Sometimes you just got to put in the bright colors just to brighten life up. Well, that one was a lot of fun, you guys. I really, really enjoyed that. I did forget one step with you guys, and that is when your gold is all done drying, the gold that we did, if you went over the lines of the black and you wanted to go and redo those lines just around the edge of them, you can just go, once it's all totally dry, you can go around and just go around those gold spots just to because some of the black line work might be covered up, so you don't want to, you just want to go over to fill in where it might be dulled down. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. Like I just kind of looked at this, I was like, oh, you know, I don't mind how that looks anyways. But you can kind of go over where that was, the lines were, if they're just covered up a little bit by that gold ink. So it's not like you're creating anything new. You're just going to kind of brighten up those lines again. Sorry, I forgot about that. Anyway, you guys, sorry about my voice today. That is kind of crazy and crackly, but I just love these bright flowers and I am really enjoying that background. So I'm working a little bit more with that, and I've been practicing that background technique a bit more because I like the idea of the stark white, but sometimes I like the idea of having a little something, but I don't love a full background. I know that. I don't love that look. So this is kind of a happy medium that I'm kind of finding. So that's the joys of painting all the time. You just get to discover new things. Anyways, you guys, if you like the tutorial, of course, as usual, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed already, if you're enjoying what you're seeing. Again, share the videos. If you know people that would be interested in learning how to watercolor paint, please share them with the people that you know and love. And I think that's going to do it for this tutorial. And if you guys don't mind just letting me know what your thoughts are on doing a live stream. And then I've been kind of brainstorming a bit about it. So let me know your thoughts on that. And if you guys need to contact me for any reason at all, you can reach out on Instagram at blooms.and.brushstrokes. That is it today, you guys. Thank you for watching, and hopefully by next week, my voice is back to normal. We will see you then.